UFC 314 is just around the corner. Volkanovski versus Lopez for the vacant featherweight title. And can Paddy Pimblett put away Michael Chandler in the co-main event? People, this is a 10-minute preview as I'll be doing the prelims and the main card as I look at the fights and I give you my predictions. Sit back, relax. Let's get into it. And the time starts now. Going to start off with Julian Arosa versus Darren Elkins. A really fun fight on paper. Look, Julian Arosa is so fun to watch. Always walking his opponents down. Takes a punch well, has an insane gas tank, and he has great jiu-jitsu too. Look, you have to just go back and look at the fight with him and Sean Woodson. Such a back and forth fight. He took some horrible punches, but he just kept the pressure on, kept walking down Woodson, and then finally got him in a beautiful Darce choke and gave Sean his first loss in the UFC. I can't wait to see him go up against Elkins, who almost reminds me of like a smaller version of Bisping, even the way his stance is, very Bisping-esque. I'm looking forward to the fight. I think Elkins has a chance, especially with Arosa taking a lot of damage, but I'm going to go with Arosa this time. I can't wait to see the fight. On to the second fight, and that is Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper. The old versus the new, the experienced versus the less experienced. I won't say inexperienced because Chase Hooper's been doing this a while now. Jim Miller has famously fought at UFC 100, 200, and 300, and he's good everywhere. Good striking, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. He's got experience for days and octagon generalship coming out of his ears. He's been in the UFC longer than I can even remember. And then you got Chase Hooper, who everyone thought was Ben Askren's son for a little while there. He is potentially having a passing of the guard moment. He's won his last 5 matches in the UFC. 3 of them have come by submission. 1 has come by TKO. He's a taller fighter, has the rangier fighter. I think all roads in this fight, in my opinion, lead towards a Chase Hooper victory, but you never know. Can Jim roll the clock back and get a famous win at UFC 314? The next fight, Yan Xiaonan versus Jandiroba. This is a massive fight in the women's strawweight division. Yan Xiaonan came up short in her quest to become the women's champion against the one, the only Wei Li. A magnificent fight. Look, it looked like she was literally put out, and then every time she got hit, it's like it just galvanized her more. Yan Xiaonan has got some really good names on her resume. Jandiroba is highly ranked and doesn't necessarily have, the resume of a Yan Xiaonan, but she's very dangerous in her own right. However, I just think with the dynamism, the experience, the variety of different attacks that Yan Xiaonan can attack this fight with, I'm going with Yan Xiaonan. I think she'll get the job done, and it could potentially set up a rematch between her and Wei Li. So time will tell. Hope to see that rematch. I'll be honest. That was a really good fight the first time around. Next, we have 50K Ige, the man who steps in on short notice, whether it be a day or 2 or 4 hours. Just asks the co-headliner, Diego Lopez. He'll be going up against Sean Woodson, who is the rangiest fighter at 145. Let's be real. He'd be one of the rangiest fighters in any division that he fought in. A really tall fighter. He has got fantastic boxing, Sean. Really good angles. Because of the length and the reach he has as well, he's able to utilize some kicks as well. But his boxing is what he really leans on. But what does Dan Ige lean on? His boxing. And look, if there's anything we saw in that Diego Lopez fight, is that Dan Ige gets stronger as the fight goes. Dan Ige, I remind you, took that fight on 4 hours notice and was the fresher man by the end of the fight. A fight which Diego Lopez had been preparing for weeks. Not taking anything away from Diego Lopez, just testament to Dan Ige. However, I do think this is Sean Woodson's potential coming out party, a way for him to break into the top 15 of the featherweight division, and I think he'll get the job done via decision. Let me know what you guys think. On to the main card now, and we kick off with Dominic Reyes versus Nikita Krylov. Look, Nikita Krylov hasn't fought in 2 years, but still has a relatively high ranking. Dominic Reyes, we all know the history. Should have beaten John Jones. Should have got the result there. Didn't. Then everyone sort of had him as the champion going into the fight against Jan Blachowicz. Got pieced up in that fight. Then he got absolutely destroyed by Yuri Prochazka. Then he took another loss to Ryan Spann. But he's starting to rebuild himself now. And look, sometimes fighters go through these phases where, you know, they're not too great. And then, you know, it's peaks and troughs, isn't it? But standing across from him is Nikita Krylov, who I think has a massive point to prove. And he's kind of the unknown entity in the division, the dark horse, as it were. And I think you look at his skill set, and I think it can present Dominic Reyes with a lot of problems. And look, I think Nikita Krylov is 2 fights away from fighting for the championship, considering the work that Alex Pereira has done in the division, especially if Alex Pereira gets the rematch and the win against Ankalaev. So I'm going with Nikita Krylov. I'm going for a decision win for Nikita Krylov in this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Then we have probably the most eagerly anticipated fight on the card for a host of reasons, and that is John Silva versus Bryce Mitchell. Look, Bryce Mitchell, no stranger to a bit of controversy. And he's probably in this position because of the controversy. John Silva called out Bryce Mitchell, and he's capitalized on the controversy. John Silva in his last fight just looks so good. The knockout, he just oozes machismo, right? But Bryce Mitchell is a dog. Say what you want about him personally, but Bryce is a dog. And I think a lot of people are overlooking him, hence why I'm actually going with Bryce Mitchell. I think Bryce Mitchell uses his wrestling, uses his grappling, and I think he subdued the sometimes emotional John Silva, and I think he gets the unanimous decision win. And I think he gets it to a chorus of boos at the end of the fight. Then another great fight at featherweight. This is like a featherweight, like just festival. This card. It is Yair Rodriguez versus Pitbull Patricio. He has finally arrived in UFC. That is right. Pitbull is here, and he's here to stay. Look, he's a fresh addition to the division, and arguably you say the UFC probably wants him to win because it sets up some very, very interesting matchups. He's a fighter who's fought 55 before, could potentially go up to 55 again. I just don't see him beating Yair Rodriguez. Yair's striking is so good. And look, Patricio's got knockout power. It's obvious. We've seen him knock people out in the past. I just think at this stage in his career, this age, and him coming into the UFC, it's a whole nother ball game. Michael Chandler came over when he was 34. Patricio is coming over at 37. I think Yair is going to be too fresh, too strong, too quick. And I think Yair stops Patricio in the second round with strikes. Going on to the co-main event of the evening, Liverpool's own, the Scouse sensation, Paddy Pimblett taking on Michael C at the top, Chandler. Look, heavily anticipated fight, this one. Many people are dubbing this the people's main event. And look, I understand why. 2 very popular fighters, one of which is been around the block, whether it be a Bellator and UFC fighting legend after legend after legend, and the other is just about making his case into becoming that global superstar. Off the back of 2 wins against Tony Ferguson and Bobby Green, or now known as King Green, Paddy Pimblett for me should be the favorite in this fight. Paddy Pimblett for me is going to win this fight. I think he's going to keep Michael Chandler at range. I think he's going to frustrate Chandler. Chandler is going to be impatient. He's going to start swinging and he's going to miss. And I think Paddy's going to take him down. And I think Paddy's going to submit him with that terrific jiu-jitsu that he has. And now on to the main event of 314. Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. And look, Volk is in everyone's Mount Rushmore of UFC featherweights. I don't even think it's close that he's not in the Mount Rushmore. Some people even have him as the GOAT, and I understand that argument as well. And Diego Lopez is firing through the division. His first fight in the UFC was against Evloev. He lost that fight and came back like an absolute machine. He's been getting wins. He's been getting submissions. He knocked, TKO'd Sadiq Youssef, and now he's got Volk standing in front of him. For me, the keys to victory for Volk is footwork, his IQ, and that gas tank. I think Diego Lopez, if he's going to beat Volkanovski, gets him out of there in the first 2 rounds. If Volkanovski wins this fight, it's because he drags it into deep waters, and I think he has the ability to do that. However, Volkanovski coming off the back of 2 knockout losses, 2 devastating knockout losses. Volkanovski being older now. I hate to say it and even use this comparison because I love Izzy. I love Adesanya, but it feels very similar to what's happened to Adesanya. It feels as though them 2 are so far ahead in the divisions, respectively, that they had the targets on their back and everyone was working towards them 2. Izzy's been caught up and surpassed now by a couple of fighters. And I think the same is going to happen with Volkanovski. I've got Diego Lopez winning this by TKO in the second round. I can see Volkanovski having a good opening first round. He's very elusive in the first round, very hard to pin down and very hard to catch. But I think Lopez is going to bite down once he feels his timing, once he feels his range. I think he bites down, and I think he gets the TKO win in the second round. So that's it for me, people. I did it in 10 minutes. I've given you a UFC 314 prelim and main card preview. All I need you to do now is give me your predictions in the comments below. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thanks for watching. This has been The Sanderson Show. Mind how you go, people. Take care.